Hitler, but Hitler didn't act alone. I mean, it was the elites in London who funded him. It was the elites in New York. It was the whole eugenic force of the earth, the eugenics culture, which still exists to this day. I mean, it's why 70% of the babies aborted in America are black. It's because the entire Planned Parenthood is run by a bunch of eugenicists. They want to eliminate anybody who's not making a contribution to their little master race goals, as much as possible. So it was Hitler, but it wasn't Hitler alone, I guess would be the way to say that. And the people that created him, that enabled him, funded him, coddled him, and sort of nursed him in the womb, and nursed him in the crib. I mean, they're still around. They were never named, in all of the Nuremberg. It was just random Nazis and low-level Nazis. It's just like everything else, The elite do all the drugs and whatever they want to do. Gross, ridiculous, weird, horrible stuff. But they make sure that the laws that they create crack down on the rest of us to do exactly what they do with impunity. It's like a power trip, So the same thing with the Nuremberg trials. I mean, they took out the low-level Nazis, the random picks among higher-level Nazis, but the really, really high-level Nazis, and the rest of the elite of the world that brought them into being. They not only were they not prosecuted, they were never even identified. They were never even named. But and the world doesn't know, and the world doesn't know who they are as a result. Because history is the polemics of the victor. And you say, well, America won, well, the West won, well, the Allies won. Well, yes, they did. But Hitler was not only at war with the world, but he was at war with the people that created him, because they were like a bunch of incestuous brothers and sisters that got into a fight, basically because Hitler got so big that he thought he didn't need them anymore, and so he lashed out at them, and by proxy he was lashing out at the rest of us. Basically, he was lashing out at the entire world, because he really did believe that he could take over. And the story is that had it not been for the Russians, he would have taken over. So that when the Allies landed on the beach in Normandy, I think it was Normandy, they were already 75%. The Nazi army was already 75% decimated by the Russian front. So that's definitely not the history that we hear, because history is the polemics of the victor, right? We hear the story that the winners want us to hear. And the winners were the Allies. The winners were also the incestuous brothers and sisters that Hitler got into a fight with. They were also winners. So we hear the polemics of the victor. We hear the version that the winner wants us to hear. So interestingly enough, Hitler was totally into this rocket program. Wernher von Braun, a high-level elite Nazi, became one of the founders of NASA. Walt Disney was in there. Some other guys. And Wernher von Braun was a rocket scientist, a rocket engineer. So there is a need for a space program. If for nothing else, for national pride, which to me is very blasphemous to contrive something like that, or to base something as sacred as national pride on a fake premise. But nevertheless, if we can have things floating around in the atmosphere, 100 miles up or 200 miles up, because it's inside the dome. The dome is reported to be 400 miles in height, or maybe 600 miles. Somebody knows, but nobody's telling us, right? Then there is probably some use for that, to have machines floating around in the sky 100 miles or 200 miles. The space shuttle reportedly only goes 200 miles high. The International Space Station, 200 miles. So can things simply float at that level without any kind of propulsion to keep them afloat, or with minimal propulsion? I don't know. But the whole point is that this is a very this heliocentric narrative. Why they would lie about it? It's to keep their narrative afloat. It's to keep their $50 million a day and the culture that they created with that money alive. Because the space culture is a culture. The rocket culture is a culture. The whole thing is a culture. I mean, people are mesmerized by the images, and it's always images, right? I mean, they created mathematics that might be invalid in reality, but because it could theoretically all be imaginary, and they're just creating mathematical constructs that don't really have an application. They just forced them to work. For example, I have a friend who told me recently that using mathematics, you can prove that 1 equals 0. I have another friend that told me that using engineering laws, which involves mathematics, obviously, you can also write equations that will show you or prove that water rolls uphill. So mathematics are like statistics. Science is like statistics. The integrity and the reliability of the proofs is entirely dependent upon the integrity and the reliability of the author of the proofs. So that is extremely interesting to me. It takes me back to my idea that science is witchcraft, that the comical version of witchcraft that they put in front of us, that they tell us is witchcraft, is not. It is witchcraft, but it's like a ceremonial, ritualized version of witchcraft. It's like, it's kind of, how do you say? I mean, it's ceremonial, It's not the real deal. The real deal is when you invent language, that would be like the incantations. The real deal is when you invent language, invent lexicon, entire dictionaries and encyclopedias full of lexicons, right, that are used to deceive, right, and to steal, and perhaps even to injure, to hide. Now, if your lexicon is easy to expose as witchcraft, as fakery, as evil, well, then it's not very good, is it? I mean, you need to hire some better, some better language experts, some better, scientists, some better whatever. So, apparently, if my friends are right, and I have no reason to believe that they're not, apparently, you can do the same thing with math and with science that you can do with language. You can use it for good, or you can use it for bad. You can use it to enlighten and illuminate, or you can use it to deceive, entrap, confuse, and oppress and manipulate. It's your choice. It's all about the author. So, and interestingly, the idea that language and mathematics and science can be used this way is just another expression of the idea of controlling the narrative. Your narrative doesn't necessarily have to be a rhetorical narrative. Your narrative could be a mathematical narrative. Your narrative could be a scientific narrative. In fact, Nikola Tesla said that precise thing about Einstein's theory of relativity. He said this exact thing about it. He said that Einstein's theory of relativity is like a beggar in purple clothes that dazzles, think about that dazzles people with its sparkle and glamour. I'm having to paraphrase here because I can't remember the exact quote. That dazzles people with its sparkle and glamour, such that they don't see the beggar underneath the purple clothing. You know, the purple is a color of royalty. You know, so basically what he's saying is that the theory of relativity is just a bunch of lights and flashes and distractions and hypnotizing sequences of lights and colors, but on the inside, what it really is it's nothing. It's a worn out, burnt up, used up old beggar. It's nothing. It's nobody. There's nothing there. It's like I said. It's like a bunch of legitimate. It's an array of legitimate mastery. Okay, you could say that the purple clothing and the sparkling jewels are masterful creations. Okay, surrounding an illegitimate cause, a lie, a falsehood, a deception. You know, that's an amazing example of all of that. So that's what science and math is, and in the exact same way. Here's something else that's interesting to me, that I find interesting. That's so much of science. I can't really speak to mathematics about this, but so much of science, law, medicine is a form of science, of course, is based upon the Latin language, or rooted in the Latin language. The Catholic Church, famously during the Dark Ages, was rooted in the Latin language. For me, Latin is the language of deception and oppression, because that's what the Catholic Church, no offense to Catholics, but during the Dark Ages, you know, they went through some rough times there. I guess you could say with the new Pope, they're still going through some rough times. But they went through some rough times there, and you know, they were oppressing and deceiving people and stealing and robbing people, making people buy forgiveness, like literally buy it, you know, stuff like that. And people were not allowed to question the Catholic Church with its Latin-based narratives, right? And so today we have science, we have law, we have medicine, we have all these things. I think my phone's about to die. And they're all rooted in and based on the Latin language, and same exact thing. We have to buy their blessings. We have to buy the salvation that they promise. We have to buy. I mean, they just want. And there's an excellent verse in Isaiah where it says that these idols, I can't remember the exact verse, but basically it says that the idols always rob you. They leave you naked, you know. They take everything from you. They take everything from your children. They take everything from you. They take everything from your future generations. They just rob you and rob you and rob you. It's exactly what they do. I mean, look at what medicine is doing to us. I mean, it's bringing us to our knees financially, because it just keeps robbing. They're thieves. These medical leaders. I'm not talking about your local doctor. Local doctor doesn't know what's going on. Local doctor is just a worker in a factory. He doesn't know what's going on. Some doctors do, but not your local guy. Not your local guy. I mean, some doctors are truly evil because they're people. Any group of people has evil people in it. they also have, any group of people also has heroic good people in it, you know. So, but some doctors are they're just evil, you know. Speaking of evil, there's a Jeep Laredo in front of me with a Freemason symbol on it. But some people say that G is a symbol for sperm. I don't understand that. I do not understand that. The guy that told me that has a PhD, and I don't know. He's supposed to be a smart guy. I don't know if he knows what he's talking about. Other people say it stands for gravity, because the whole heliocentric model literally falls apart without gravity, and they don't know what gravity is. They have no idea. They still don't know. But you know, so maybe gravity is the thing that holds the lie together, holds the narrative together. I don't know. And then there's another theory for what the G stands for as well. But it's the first initial of a guy's last name that I can't think of right now, or the first letter of a guy's last name that I can't think of right now. So these idols, they just rob us, you know. And so same thing. You can't question science, you can't question medicine, you can't question lawyers, you can't question politicians who write the laws. I mean, you know, that's the projection, that's the aura that they want to give off, because they don't want to be questioned. Just give me all your money, don't ask any questions. Again, it's all about controlling the narrative. If you can convince people that there's a purple dragon in those woods, well, then you can control their behavior. You can figure out ways to persuade them to give you money, you know. And that's what controlling the narrative is all about. That's why they tell you that we're on a spinning rock in the middle of a giant universe. Somehow they spin that narrative into control. I mean, look, let's face it, if we're living on a flat Earth that is constructed like a child's terrarium, well, that gives us psychologically quite a different view of the world and the people that we're here with than the idea that we're spinning out. I mean, evolution comes out of that narrative. You know, the Big Bang comes out of that narrative. This nonsense about the entire universe being compressed into something the size of the head of a pen, or an atom, or, I mean, you know, they just keep spinning and spinning and spinning and creating more narratives based upon this narrative. I mean, this is a very productive narrative, you know. And like I said, $50 million a day just for NASA. You know, there's other spin-offs of NASA around the world. I think they're all controlled by NASA, but they're spin-offs, you know. They get even more money, you know. And all of the fake science that comes out of the quote-unquote experiments they do in quote-unquote zero gravity environment, whatever, you know. There's narratives coming out. There's child narratives, grandchild narratives, great-grandchild narratives. There's narratives that come out of these narratives, and all of these narratives are narratives that people have interest in, and generally the interests are always either power or money. So it's all about controlling the narrative. So hopefully, like I said, this is my first stab at tackling an abstract idea, trying to make it understandable as to what it means, and this is my best effort on this. So hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.